Welcome to Brave Together podcast, an empowering resource for the parents of children with disabilities, neurodivergence, and all unique needs.
In my experience, like when people talk about like somebody being great at something, it's not so much that everybody doesn't have something they're great at, they do. The matter of fact is that like we don't always value what those people are great at, and it's not always supported. And that's what makes the difference. What you do with the most ease, that's supported the most, and that people value the most, that's what becomes great.
Hi, Brave friends. Welcome back to Brave Together podcast. It's Jessica Patay here, founder and CEO of We Are Brave Together. And I am joined by Susanna Lovell, my lovely co-host. And we are honored to share a very special Thriving Neurodivergent Adult conversation with artist and advocate Alexis Brygider. Alexis shares their extraordinary story of growing up autistic and nonverbal, discovering art as a form of communication, and learning to navigate a world that often misunderstood them. In this conversation, Alexis reflects on the profound impact of being truly seen and supported, especially by their mother, Barbara, who treated Alexis with such dignity, patience, and deep respect from a very young age. Together, we explore sensory overwhelm, emotional regulation, communication, disability justice, friendship, independence, creativity, and the importance of nurturing a person's passions and strengths. Alexis also shares how art, animation, and community became lifelines that helped shape their identity and purpose. This episode is so honest, funny, insightful, and deeply moving. Alexis offers such a powerful perspective on neurodivergence, connection, and what it means to thrive as a disabled adult. We're so grateful you're here with us today. If this episode encourages you, teaches you something new, or helps you feel less alone, please share it with a friend or fellow parent. Be sure to follow Brave Together on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more conversations, resources, and support for caregiving families. And now, here is our enlightening, wonderful conversation with Alexis Brygider. All right. Well, Alexis, welcome to Brave Together podcast. We're so happy to have you with us today.
I'm very excited to be here.
And we welcome you, Anthony, who happens to be our board president and has a fantastic career working with neurodivergent teens and adults. And so he has been working with Alexis for almost 10 years. We invited him to be a part of this episode as well. We are extremely grateful to Anthony and how he has served We Are Brave Together from the beginning, pretty much. So welcome to this show.
Thank you, Jessica and Susanna. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. And as always, to be part of We Are Brave Together all these years. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, Alexis, we're going to start with you. Tell us about your growing up experience.
Well, I was born in Mineola, New York. From a very early age, I have memories that go back a very long ways. Quite frankly, like when I was little, I remember always being confused by like communication and like how to like best approach just interacting with people. Just the feeling of a need to express myself either through like art in order to be able to facilitate that communication more effectively, and or also learning how to like actually like, interact with people. One of the tips I would give for being able to do so in a more fluid way is to like, this is what I did at least, is to like study like the great like comedic actors of history. Like for instance, when I was growing up, I would watch like Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, even Robin Williams and Jim Carrey. And like because of those people, I'm able to communicate now and actually gesture and like speak, quite frankly. But it's the minutia of like the subtleties and the exaggeratedness. Like that's the whole full spectrum of like human expression that is really like important. And that was enough for me to like be able to grok and really handle what that means in a way that like other people can really mesh with. From there, I was nonverbal for a long period of time, like fully only speaking sentences when I was 6. There was a long period of time where like there was a lot of frustration. They're trying to get me to talk, and At the meantime, I could read, and I knew I could read like very early on, and like very like they would later find out when I was very young that I like a college level reading and very early. But like you couldn't tell if you were like trying to like talk to me or see if I'm in there, but I was in there,
Mm.
and
Mm.
I can credit that very much with my mom because she would when I was an infant. Again, my memory goes back a very long ways. I remember it being like I was trapped in a body that was that was like stuck in a crib or something. And my mom would still treat me like I was just another one of her friends, a person that she would like just talk to about her day and like give a beat for if I want to respond, I can, but I wouldn't obviously at that point. And she would talk to me in a way that was like a person, which is I would say one of the biggest gifts that I was ever given was that she would
Mm.
just communicate with me in a way that was like facilitating actual human interaction. And I don't see that nearly enough in a lot of like the commentary or like conversations I've seen about a lot of this in my life. Because I remember like when like people are still trying to figure out like what are the rules, like how do we do this, like what does it mean for somebody to have a sensory like explosion or of like over sensory stimulation, or why are they stimming? We should stop them from stimming. And they would literally do that. And it would like be like, well, that's why your child is having a dysregulated outburst is because they need to self-soothe. Like, no, no, it's not okay. You need to stop them from stimming or they'll be perseverating on it forever. And like, no, that's not how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And so from there, I was able to build brick by brick my mind up with my mom's help. But honestly, like art has been like the key linchpin for me that's really like carried me through the entirety of like my life. Even more so than science, I would say, because like art is like the key thing that really communicates and it transcends all the language. Is that you're able to actually have something that is transcendent and human. And not only human, because animals can make art too, but like especially like very much of a lived experience. And that's always been just fundamental to me to be able to do any of that, even like pre language and all of that.
How old were you when you discovered art and being able to express yourself through art?
I was about 1.5.
Okay, that's so remarkable to me that you have that sharp memory. You seem so incredibly in tune with yourself.
I can tell you what it was too. I can tell you the exact book I was reading. It was the history of the 20th century, if memory serves. That like a picture of like Marilyn Monroe, where Warhol's like gold Marilyn Monroe on the cover, maybe Teddy Roosevelt too, and like I think it was Time or something had published or something like that. And it was a specific entry on Guernica because I was looking through it to try and find something about the world that like
Mm-hmm.
made some level of sense because my I didn't have the best childhood growing up, but my mom did everything she could, but there's only so much you can do at a certain point. And there was this one piece, it was Guernica by Pablo Picasso that just made sense. And in that like this in that sort of like vestigial state of my mind, I something clicked where I said, somebody not only understood what on some level what I'm going through, but they chose to make something to communicate that feeling in such a way that I myself could reflect on it and say whether or not I wanted to do that as well. If I wanted to, in essence, make art as well and continue this tradition. And that meant the whole world to me, quite frankly, and it still does. To make that breakthrough and like that connection with somebody even like beyond time and space, that's everything for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Alexis, I am curious if you feel comfortable sharing how old you are now.
32.
32. So I'm having this it's almost like a scene from a movie, a visual of you at 1.5. And
Yeah.
I can sense this energy, this curiosity, and this wonder. It feels so palpable coming, emanating from you, Alexis. It's like it's really hard to it's hard to ignore, right? Because it's just there.
So, Alexis, what about some of the other people that were in your life growing up? Because I know that,
Oh, there's a
you know,
ton.
who were if you had to go like halo wise,
Ooh.
they were the core people, and then there was some
Yeah.
of the support people. And
Mrs.
so,
Molinaro was a big deal
okay,
for
so
me.
who's Mrs. Molinaro? And explain, maybe some perspective on how these people influenced you, because you've talked about these things all out your life,
Yeah.
and these are important individuals.
Huh. Mrs. Molinaro put up with me when nobody else should have had to put up with me. When I was like about age 6 or like a little later, it might have been Yeah, it was a little later too. She was my support staff back then. And I was a demon child. I'm not gonna even lie. I'm like metacognitive enough to know I was a demon child. Fortunately, I caught myself at age 6, so I didn't end up in like prison or something. But like, I can attest for like for the record that if your child is having like stuff like that going on, it can get better. Just it sucks for now. It will get better though if you like give yourself patience and like just do the next right thing, as my mom would put it. That's all you really can do at a certain point. She made it so that I was able to really like see that there are people out there who cared about people. And she helped me get through a period of time that was really rough for me when I was transitioning between schools.
Besides, your mom sounds like steady, that she was so communicative, that she had insight when you were little before you were using language to narrate and to comment and to have a conversation with you and just invite you into her day and what was going on. That's just so beautiful. What else would you say? What stands out to you about your mom? And was she the most supportive person in your life growing up?
100%. 100%. She up until like the her illness took her in a way that we couldn't really help. She was my Batman, so to speak, if you know what I mean, like the superhero. Like to this day, I do not know a single person who's as tenacious or as much of a survivor as that woman. I hope if I ever am a parent, I am 1 millionth as good a parent as she is, or she was, or she is rather.
And she was kind and caring, but she was tenacious. And
Oh yeah,
she,
that's important.
you've
You
used,
need that.
you said something about being a rhino. I remember using
No, not Rhino. She was a dynamo.
a dynamo. Okay.
Not, she
In
was
what
as stubborn
ways?
as a rhinoceros, but like in a good way,
Right,
in a
right.
way that matters.
It was positive. I was good friends
Right.
with. So yes, yes.
What was your mom's name?
Barbara.
Barbara.
Barbara Fagan. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry that she's gone. We're never ready to lose
Yeah.
our parents ever, ever, ever. Alexis, I'm so sorry. We are so sorry.
One of the things that I think is so beautiful about your consciousness, Alexis, and your memory is that it seems like you have such specific memories to hold on to and to sort of be your support and guide throughout. I was chuckling a little bit when you mentioned that you were a demon child, um, because as we were talking right before we started recording this conversation, I actually am a single mom, and I have raised my daughter. Her name is Arizona.
Cool. Cool.
She loves a name that starts with the letter A, by the
Oh.
way. So,
So do we.
yeah, I mean, listen, Anthony and
Anthony.
Alexis, right? So I would love to ask you this question from the perspective of a parent raising a child who has a differently wired brain.
Fantastic.
Um, and sometimes I would offer to call her a demon child, and not because I think she's a demon child, but because her way of communicating with me was one where she found me to be very, very safe. I'm her safe space.
Oh yeah.
And so, in order to express and release and self regulate and self soothe, she would use words to describe the different ways she could envision my demise. Okay.
Oh my.
Yeah. And so sometimes there would be, talk about my head coming off and turning into a basketball so she could bounce it. Anthony, why are you laughing?
Oh.
Go ahead. Alexis and I have had conversations like this.
I'm a very darkly morbid person, but I mean it as a joke.
Yeah, but I can completely understand.
We are going to take a brief break. Stay with us. There is a moment most caregiving mothers remember with startling clarity, the moment before. and the moment after. Before the diagnosis, before the phone call, before the doctor walked into the room. That invisible threshold that divides a life into two distinct halves. And on the other side, a version of yourself you never auditioned for, doing things you never imagined you could do. You have been suddenly thrust into altered motherhood. Bravies, our second book, is here. Suddenly Brave Together, Letters to Caregiving Mothers at a Defining Moment in Their Lives, captures the voices of women who lived that pivotal moment, written from a place of hard-won wisdom, decades in the making. Imagine 30 seasoned, savvy, compassionate moms reaching across the universe to share their stories, their transformations, and everything they wish someone had told them. This is not just a book. It is an open door, a reminder that somewhere in this wide world, there is a mother who has already walked the road you are on, and she is holding out her hand for you. Written with new and newer caregiving moms at heart, Suddenly Brave Together will validate and inspire every parent caregiver who picks it up. Grab your copy today. The link is in the show notes. Welcome back, brave friends.
I mean, there is just a lot of conversation about how, because she's upset about something, right? She's upset, she's frustrated, she can't communicate exactly how she's feeling. And so her first line of defense, her like sort of, impulsive reaction is to, take a stab at me, literally, figuratively. I'm curious what you would say to me, because sometimes it's hard for me to not take that personally.
I
Do you know
get
what I
that.
mean? So if there's a way that you can sort of understand her behaviors and actions that seem almost punitive in a sense toward me, although I know deep down she's just trying to express herself.
Mm-hmm.
How can you help me get past these moments of pain for me so that I can better support her, but also support myself?
Let me ask you something. Have you ever had something under your fingernail?
Yes.
Stuck like a thorn that's like
Yes.
causing an infection that's like oozing and like every horribleness. Okay, now imagine that. Now imagine that you can never remove it. It can never, or you can't remove it, but there are ways you can adapt to it. But it's not. It's right now. It's sounding like it's not really like it's. It sounds like it's hurting right now.
Mm.
Imagine that, but it's like a state of being.
Yeah.
And it's like not quite like focused. I was in this situation like this, so that's why I'm like speaking from experience here. I don't know. I can't speak for directly for your daughter. Everyone's different. Everyone has different minds. It's like literally like neurotypes and everything. I will say in my experience, like there's a state you get into where literally you're so raw. There's like a psychedelic trip for me, like a constant one. It still is to an extent, and it's like for because of the neurology I have, not necessarily, and also like synesthesia among other things. So, like it gets to a point where you become so raw that you need to lash out in order to even be able to function.
Mm.
That doesn't mean that you want to hurt somebody. It means that you need to process and you need to be able to direct that process. And if you don't have the proper tools to like help manage the direction of that process, that can be very easily become violent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that it's impossible to get like assistance to get the help with that process. It is completely possible.
Mm.
It means that it just means that there's going to be like the need to be able to ask for help, but also be able to get that help.
Mm-hmm.
I would say to your daughter, like, I'm imagining that Arizona wants to get better, that she doesn't want to be in pain.
Yes. Yes.
And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
at that point, to the extent that she can, like, verbalize it or even, like, communicate it in whatever way she does, doesn't have to be verbally, folks.
Mm-hmm.
That's necessary to be able to want to do the work or to be able to want to have that help and be able to accept that help. If that's facilitated, that's possible, I think at that point you need to just find the right people at a certain point and the right like tools. That's just my experience, at least. I can't speak for everyone.
That was very insightful.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like, and she will apologize later, Mommy, I don't mean to be fill in the blank. I just can't stop myself.
Yeah, that tracks. Completely tracks.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know when Ryan is, so I have a 20, I would say 23, but pretty close to 23-year-old son with a rare genetic disorder and intellectual disability and autism. And there are times that he lashes out verbally, his anxiety gets really, really high. And I know it's just there's something that's bothering him, but he just doesn't have the ability to communicate what's really, really making him sad or what's really making him upset. And I have to remind myself what he's talking about, what he's complaining about, what he's whining about is not really usually what it's about, but it's just his form of getting it out. He can't say, the deeper thoughts or feelings, and so he'll focus on something else. And your illustration of, a thorn or something under the nail that just lives there indefinitely and painfully is helpful, I think, for us as parents to remember our kids are carrying things that we have no idea. We have no idea because we are not, some of our parents and We Are Brave are definitely neurodiverse. But I don't have Prader-Willi syndrome. I don't have Ryan's level of anxiety. I definitely run anxious, but I don't run his level of anxious. And it's just a reminder for us to have so much compassion. All of us would communicate effectively if we had those tools available to us at all times. And we don't always.
In my experience, growing up, especially in nonverbal, it was the frustration was the most maddening part. I hadn't made the connection quite that people wanted me to verbally word the things I was reading for a while, longer than I am willing to admit. It was that connection, that click that actually was important. It wasn't so much that I was incapable of doing something. It was that I just needed to have that thought be like aligned in just the right way for it to like click. That being said, that frustration is necessary to be able to be given the space for that. In my experience, when it's like being able to be allowed to like be frustrated, but also like to be able to how can we like I would imagine this my mom did to an extent was like how do we express that frustration in a way that's like not destructive, and then if anything is constructive, being able to express yourself in a way that communicates. That's necessary. I tell Anthony a lot of the time that like in my experience, like one of the best things you can do when somebody has like for instance, for example, a topic limited interest and like doesn't want to do something is use the topic limited interest to teach them about the thing that either they need to do or that, gives them the skills that they would want to do the thing.
Mm.
Like one way I put it to him was like Pokemon, like have it so that a Poke battle is taking a test or something like that. And like balancing the stats be like the math for the Pokemon, for being able to tell the attack versus defense versus special effect and all that stuff and like the effects of different moves and stuff
Or trains.
or trains. Could be like planes, trains, automobiles, all of that. All of that jazz.
Do you like trains? Is that why this is coming up?
No, I like airports, but that's besides the point. Don't change the subject.
My Arizona would call that a topic changer. You're a topic changer.
Pivoting in like regular parlance. But she's right. You're changing the subject, and it's unfair to a large extent for a lot of people.
She called me a TC for the longest time. I was like, I don't know what a TC is.
Topic changer.
That's right. I know. But how was I supposed to know?
Oh my gosh.
By the way, so how did you two meet? Alexis and Anthony. I'm curious because you have this 10-year journey at this point, right? So
it's really been magical the entire time. Alexis and I have been working together every day for the last 10 years. We worked through the pandemic. We worked virtually. It's been a thing, as Alexis says.
Yes,
but
I did.
so I work with other families. I have one family that I work with who lives between New York and Vienna, Austria. And I was actually in Vienna, Austria, working with that family. And I get a call. It was the middle of the night because of time difference. And so somebody from New York contacted me through one of the organizations here, and they asked me if they got my name through a mutual colleague. We went through the channels, and I said, "All right." And they told me that there was a young child that lived in Brooklyn or in New York City, and they said they need somebody who has experience working with younger children, a little girl. And I said, "Oh, this could work out." And so I met with the representative from the organization, and we both laugh about this now because we call this the old bait and switch. I got there, and then they said, "Oh, by the way, yeah, that family has somebody else, but you know what? We have somebody else that lives in Brooklyn. Would you be interested in working with a 20-something-year-old who, is a college student?" I said, "Wait a minute, this is not what you guys saw and told me." And so the two of us met, and Alexis, we
Diabolical.
as part of the support staff, our first meeting we actually met where I met with Alexis and I handled it like a professional business interview. And so I showed up with a suit on, and
I almost didn't hire him because of that.
yeah, and Alexis was intimidated. She said, "Oh my
I
God."
wasn't intimidated. I was like, this is a culture clash right here.
Right. We just didn't have the same the ideas of what this was going to be about.
Then it turned out we actually do have the exact same ideas.
Which might not be a good thing on different levels. But and as we started working together, we started to realize that we definitely had common ground. Alexis was at the point now, she had how many years were you living alone? You were living about a year or two?
I'd say a year or two, yeah.
Yeah, so Alexis had just started having full independence, had support before that, living support,
Yeah.
was living at school, was living
Before that.
Yeah,
I
before
moved
that.
to Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yeah, so lived in a dorm setting, in various schools. Alexis had and I don't know, you can cut this out if you don't want it included, had the joy of going
During high school twice because my credits didn't transfer.
So Alexis went through high
I
school.
went from almost going to college at 8 or 9 to having to do high school twice. I got both ends of the humiliation spectrum. So
Alexis
Yay!
went through the
Oh,
program
man.
at the institution that she was enrolled in, and then went to transfer the credits over at the age of, what was it, I guess 18, the school said these are not whatever it was, accredited or whatever they were. And so Alexis had to take every course over again and did it again separately at another school out on Long Island and wound up doing high school twice.
I got honor society both times, but screw those people regardless.
So
Wow.
Wow, I didn't even know that was a thing.
well, because
Apparently.
the first time wasn't recorded as a legitimate program, and I don't have the details.
Sure.
So Alexis has a lot of, it's a calm, quiet, happy story about growing up, but it wasn't, as far as I
It
understood.
was the opposite of that. It was the complete polar freaking opposite of that.
And so when Alexis and I met, Alexis was living, all of a sudden finished that, got into, was accepted into Parsons
New School for Design.
Yeah, Parsons New School for Design, into their fine arts program.
Directly from the frying pan into the fire, basically.
Oh.
And now was given this opportunity for independence and freedom and independent living. And now you're going to be a college student in Manhattan. You're living in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, with all the hipster. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Tell you something.
The funniest part was that. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, go ahead.
The funniest part.
Yeah, let's see what the funniest part was.
Was that that was like the least of it. Like,
oh yes, it was.
I think like more so it was like getting adjusted to being like independent. That was the part that's tricky. I still have trouble with that. I'm working on it still. Like knowing not to like wander around at 4 a.m. in the morning to like just explore my neighborhood. That's what I needed to learn sooner, I think.
Yeah.
During a blizzard, the biggest blizzard we had.
In
Oh,
shorts.
man.
In shorts.
I wasn't even in shorts. I was in like a top hat and a cloak, so I looked like Gotham by Gaslight or Lovell. It was like not a great time.
So this was
But
when
a
I
good time
first started. I was first started with Alexis, and so we fondly there was this movie
So that was
series.
before you, because I was I was in the apartment before this one, which was also in Williamsburg.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
continue.
no.
Continue.
So when I started with Alexis, and this is kind of the segue, it gives you a little context because how Susanna, you brought it up, like how did you guys meet? We laugh because it was we equated to this movie series that was created at the time.
By Johnny Knoxville and Co.
It was called, what was it called, Alexis?
What
Was it called?
Jackass.
Jackass. The movie was Jackass.
I
So
knew
we got
it.
my
I
shirts
knew
and
everything for the team.
yeah, so the team had Jackass t-shirts and everything because every day was chaos and we had no idea what we were going to be dealing with.
For
But
a period of time, not anymore.
no,
It was a period of
We,
time.
Alexis,
part of my life.
we all outgrew that phase, but it was a definite experience. And so there's a growth period for this, and we all used each other's personal and interpersonal, relationships to grow. And it was important. And communication was one of the most important parts of that.
That's true.
Understanding how each one of us were thinking, because one, we were all strangers, we all got to meet each other. And then Alexis is going through a version of life, the early 20s. You're coming into, that moment in your life where you have, it's glorious. It's the world is, is yours. And
Yeah.
you're living in Brooklyn and you're, with everybody around your age, and it's exciting. It's an art scene. And, and then you have, support staff. Like that's not, it wasn't a buzzkill.
So then having a support staff when you're living your best life, was it a buzzkill or was it like,
It's funny.
thank goodness?
It's funny. Good.
It's funny because like for dating and stuff, you'd think it would be like a bigger hindrance than it is.
Yeah.
If anything, if you meet the right people, they're like, I want one of those. I'm like, I know you do. Mine.
Anthony's mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like, I want a personal assistant who's also a friend. I'm like, I know you do.
Yep.
By the way, are we splitting this check or what?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Alexis, there's so much joy that comes out of you. Honestly, like I'm so enjoying you. And
Yeah.
like what lights you up? Like
What's keeping me sane in these days?
yes, and what lights you up, both.
What makes you happy?
What makes me
You
happy?
have a great spirit, and you
That's kind of you. I love indie animation. It's one of my favorite things. I got into school for fine art. I ended up getting an illustration degree, but I still do fine art.
Mm-hmm.
I actually am hoping to get into MoMA someday. That's my life's goal right now, is to do that by 35. Somehow I'm 32. I don't know how the heck I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna give it a shot.
All right.
Indie animation is one of my favorite things. Like The Amazing Digital Circus, shout out to Gooseworks. Amazing, brilliant. I just love indie animation, and that's one of the things that cheers me up during like rough days. I also I like to work on impossible, like technical and like scientific problems along with art. That's one of my favorite things to do. And honestly, like cooking, cooking is nice. I like cooking for people, especially when I have somebody over who's like a date or something. I love cooking for people. I love like taking care of people. I love being taken care of, but more so taking care of people
Mm.
well socially.
socially.
Do you find yourself being very closed, or do you explore?
No, I love being out and about, even if it's like just those small things that matter to me. Like a cup of coffee with a friend is important to me. It means the world to me. Even with like the psychedelic like experience I have, like experiencing like other worlds and stuff, it's like that's important. It's grounding regardless of what you're experiencing.
Mm.
You built a nice network of friends
Oh yeah,
and
lot.
neighbors here in Williamsburg and Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So Alexis uses
he's my
some.
best friend, by the way.
Oh,
Like
thank you.
genuinely, when I was growing up, I wish I had a friend like him. He was the one I wanted. In hindsight, I always when growing up very young, I did not have any friends.
Mhm.
I had nobody. There was nobody around at all. Like even when I tried to make friends, like somebody would like bite me and then bite themselves and claim I bit them. They were like the person who decided my fate of having friends.
The show isn't over; it still can happen.
I'm glad that my sister stood up for me, but that she witnessed what actually happened.
Mhm.
That actually like because kids can be cruel to each other and people
Yes.
can be cruel to kids.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so,
Alexis, you have a sister. How many siblings do you have?
just my sister, Gabrielle, she's older.
But Alexis is close to Gabrielle, the two of them.
An hour or so away.
No, but I'm saying like relationship wise.
Oh yes, very close. Very close. She's my favorite person. No offense.
No, I mean it's your sister. I'm not offended.
I love that you have this goal and this wish and this intention in terms of your artwork. So where can we see some of your artwork now? I know you have a website. Can you share where our listeners can find more of your work?
My Instagram is at Faye Alexis. My website is Alexis Alexis Eleanor Eleanor Fagan F as in Frank A as in Apple G as in George A as in Apple N as in Nancy.com.
And Alexis, you're also involved in a couple of programs, right? For disability justice.
Yes, I love that, and I love being part of that.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about that because that's something that
Yeah,
you've been involved in and you've had shows in
yeah,
Manhattan.
yeah.
Would love to hear.
I had a CRIP study is currently what we're doing right now. It's like a think tank of different like queer, CRIP, disabled folks that are also mad in a non-pejorative sense, but more like a neurodiverse, like owning that label sort of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And CRIP is short for cripple, which is like also owning like disability as like a term that's been used against us. And it's a basically a think tank / emergent sort of like happening sort of thing that we do online virtually, where like we like support each other and maybe I'm hoping there will be like a salon that emerges out of this where like rising tides will lift all boats, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the arts and like other ventures that like people are doing and collectively.
And you had a show on with this group, or at
Yes.
least an offshoot of this group.
And with I Want to Be With You Everywhere too. It was at Performance Space in I think it was East Side.
Yeah,
right?
it was the Lower East Side of New York, in Manhattan.
Yeah, and I did the second STEM room, so as what's called a sensory STEM room. Other outside right after the first I Want to Be With Everywhere, I was the second one.
It was large format installation.
Yeah, I did these pieces I call the Solstice series. I either oversaw or did everything from the soundscape to the interior decorating to the lighting to the arrangement of the room to like the takeaways to the paintings on the wall and everything. Yeah,
All the aesthetics that made
and the
this.
theory and frame behind it. Yeah.
How did you find these opportunities or these organizations?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm sort of like Forrest Gump. That is the best way I can put it. Is that I have this like philosophy where like you ease into life.
Mm-hmm.
Where like there's a certain current and rhythm to life where like the more you fight against that current, the more like life will push you.
Hmm.
So how did you find out about this specific? How about
Oh, this specific, like there's a series of events, a chain of events that had to happen for it to happen. I had to date the right person who introduced me to the right people who were in the right course at Parsons, it turns out were part of disability justice, which turned out was a big enough deal over time that like people like wanted to give us space and performance space. Thank God. I mean, I'm glad they did that. And then there was a sequel to that same event. I don't know why they chose me, but I was able to get it done in 2 weeks, like the entire thing I just described with like the space and everything. Obviously with assistance. I mean, I'm not going to claim that I did the lighting on my own. I did not. I just like gave feedback and then it was basically it for the lighting. But like that's easing into life. You let life show you how that thing happens, and a lot of it is like also law of averages. Like if you push enough for long enough, eventually something will give.
you know, a lot. This is just one opportunity that you've come up with
Oh yeah.
through, and this one particularly started or originated through your connections. I will say generally from the school, from
Parsons,
your
yeah.
Parsons,
Yeah.
and so these people that you knew were connected to the school experience. Some of them were staff, some of them were the teachers, some of them were fellow
Yeah.
students,
Yeah.
alumni, right? But you also, at least in my experience with you, you're also very very headstrong on you find things online. So I don't want to use the word meetup because that's kind of a oversimplifies it.
Yeah.
But so the internet and some of the groups that you've met that turn into
Yeah.
real space,
Yeah.
whether it's in art, whether it's in your other interests, tech. So maybe that's because I think the listeners would want to know for their own children, like what are some of the opportunities that I can do? No, that's fine. That's why I'm hopefully, of course, putting it in a way that helps add some of this. So what are some of the other ways that you've been able to reach out into the areas of interest that turned into something that could turn into a performance space?
So in my experience, a lot of it is like network effects, like the network that you know, like immediately, and like who that those people know and those people know. There's a study they did recently that every single person who on Earth has like it's like 3 degrees of separation of multiple of a multiplier of 150 people, right? So it's like 3 million something or something. I didn't do the math properly in my head right off the start. I should have. But you have like at least 1 million people you directly influence in the state of how you are at any given moment. But at the same time, your single Dunbar's number, where you specifically only are able to interact with 150, but each of those people directly also have their own million or so people of 3 degrees of separation of 150 multiplied. So you take that into consideration, and then if you're gonna like think about like, well, if you have that reach, right, which everybody does, then it's a matter of like knowing like if you have that circle of influence around you, what is possible to causally affect and be affected by you?
Hmm.
Like, can you figure out a way to like have it so that you either like set up things so that by a chain of events something could occur to you, and then you let that thing happen, and then maybe drive it by law of averages. That's how I've been thinking about it, at least.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So some of that comes out of online groups. Some of that comes,
Yeah, absolutely.
You attend.
It's a smorgasbord, yeah.
Right. So you attend
Yeah.
some interesting, they'll call them meetups or
yeah.
meetings in Manhattan that revolve around your various interests.
Oh, yeah.
And it's usually, we'll call it age aligned with your age.
Well, it's also like
people in your 20s and 30s, right?
there's also a lot of people like or like have like technical experience that I either feel like I lack or that I because I was an early adopter of something, I'm able to like walk into a space
Mhm.
because I was an earlier adopter than everyone there is. I think personally more technically sound than me, but like some people think otherwise. I have no idea why. For these folks, it's important that you meet them as people, and that's the case across the board. Like people are people regardless who they are. Right, like the moment you make somebody higher than they are, you've already given up the game. But like the matter of fact is that like if people think that you're going to approach them only for something you want, you'll never get what you need.
Hmm.
So really, just be a person, be the best you can possibly be, but also be able to be aware when you need to like cut your losses and not accept unacceptable behavior because you shouldn't anyway.
Mm.
Because as my mom would say, the next right thing and the correct next thing are oftentimes the same thing.
Tell me more about that and your mom saying that, because it sounds like it was a very powerful set of guidance for you.
It's a set of guidance that's like ironclad. If only I'll add this as a condition for people at home who are saying that's not true and that's not always the case. And I'll say, like, yeah, I know it's not always the case, but the matter of fact is that most people aren't going to be doing that. Even if they like think that, oh, that's an interesting idea, they're not going to do it. So you actually already get an edge by being the person who's doing the right thing.
Hmm.
You already have a way to actually be a better person and possibly potentially have a better outcome.
So if there were other 20 somethings or 30 somethings, or young adults, teens listening right now because a parent just found you as fascinating as we do, what would you say? Like, how would you encourage them? This is how to figure out what the next right thing is.
Okay, the next right thing. In my experience, I'd say like start from where your child is at, from where people are in general, and let them pursue in a way that like actually is able to help them grow their topic limited interest. I think every child has something they're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say that there's like that I know that, but in my experience, having met people throughout my life, that's pretty much for the case every time. And that if you nurture that, the thing that a person already like does without, regardless of what the reward is, does easily. And if you support them, they're already in a better position than most of the planet. Because quite frankly, in my experience, like when people talk about like somebody being great at something, it's not so much that everybody doesn't have something they're great at, they do. The matter of fact is that like we don't always value what those people are great at, and it's not always supported.
That's right.
And that's what makes the difference. What you do with the most ease, that's supported the most, and that people value the most, that's what becomes great.
Gosh. Thank you for that.
That was so helpful for me, Alexis, right now in this moment.
Me too. Me too. When I think about Ryan and, you know, now that he's in a new season of being out of the school district and what does he do with ease? What can I support? So thank you for that. Thank you for that. Is there anything before we go? Because we are out of time, but I would love to continue talking, and I know Susanna would too. Is there anything that you would just, I mean, I think what you just said was really powerful for parents. So I don't really even know if we want to add to that because I don't want to take away from that. But is there something you haven't said, Alexis, that you would like to, either about your own life, about your own thriving, or just something that you would really want parents to know?
Your child is in there. No matter what you think, no matter what the situation is, no matter how dark it is, your child is in there. They want to be able to reach out to you. You want to be able to reach out to them. Might not always seem that way, but sometimes it's a matter of being still and in the moment, even if it's just babbling. That moment matters more than you might actually imagine, and more than you might ever be able to know. And that's what should matter to you as a parent, quite frankly, at the end of the day.
And
and
I'm in one of those moments where like, where's the jam Kleenex in the podcast closet? Thanks so much for listening today. Do us a favor and leave us a review and a rating so that this podcast can get into the ears and the hearts of more and more moms. Did you know that Brave Together podcast is an extension of our nonprofit organization, We Are Brave Together? We Are Brave Together serves an international community of caregiving moms, offering support groups that are virtual and in person, educational resources, and low-cost weekend retreats all over the United States. We've also published 2 books. Our first anthology of caregiving stories entitled Becoming Brave Together, Heroic, Extraordinary Caregiving Stories from Mothers Hidden in Plain Sight, and our newest release, Suddenly Brave Together, Letters to Caregiving Moms at a Defining Moment in Their Lives. Both books offer stories of hope and transformation and encouragement and validation for every parent caregiver. To join us today, go to wearebravetogether.org. Our support and sisterhood awaits you. Brave Together podcast is for entertainment and education purposes only. It's not a substitute for professional care and should not be relied on for medical or mental health advice. The use of any content on our podcast, links, show notes, or on our website is to be done at your own personal risk. Please seek out a professional to assess your own medical or mental health concerns because we are all beautifully complex and the content of this podcast is for a broad audience.